What's one of the biggest misconceptions you feel like people have about Luh Duke if they got one?
I feel like everybody feel like I want to rob them.
These Dookies out of that big game, these niggas put a shit on themselves, on my mother. I'm the first nigga up switch on them, on P.
I don't give a fuck, man. I just got away from the police a million times.
Z was scared, y'all. That nigga looked like he shot.
Say led a dangerous high-speed chase last night. Vincent Steele, currently wanted out of the city of Atlanta for murder. You're taking a look at him on your screen right there.
I was running for like 4 miles. What the hell? They don't show all that on there. Keep skipping.
Sheriff Levon Allen says his team caught up with him on Terra Boulevard, but Steele sped off again, hitting over 100 miles per hour before crashing into another driver in Fayette County. Investigators say he is armed and dangerous. If you see him, do not approach. Call 911 right away.
He 550.
I get my keys!
Did you get shot recently? You did.
I lost 2 of my brothers on one day.
As relatives and friends mourned the 1-year anniversary of the teen's murder at a vigil held last night, another shooting.
Free the minds and free the art so they can die, nigga, this on.
Built in 1953 for struggling black families, the Carver Community Housing Projects, more infamously known as Carver Homes, was once a staple in Atlanta's Zone 3. Beloved by many residents, these projects would provide affordable housing for poor families to live comfortably, creating a genuine residence for black families to reside in and grow up and eventually call their home. However, just like most poverty-stricken neighborhoods in America's cities, it wouldn't take long for these housing projects to begin seeing its fair share of petty to violent crimes. You see, as I initially stated in my previous video, Atlanta pre-1996, or the old Atlanta as natives call it, would be the catalyst of what shaped the city into what it is today. The old Atlanta being home to some of the worst public housing in the entire country around this time, having the highest proportion of residents in America living in these projects. It wasn't until a gang of big-time dealers known as the Miami Boys moved from southern Florida and set up shop in other states and cities for more profit. Atlanta being one of those cities, the Miami Boys would establish their drug trafficking. Coming to the Black Mecca by 1986, the city would never be the same again.
It's our first day. We fly out, we scout, and we don't see nothing. Here's how this happened. A dude named Norman here, cab driver. We don't really know the city. So Norman say, he talking, you know what I'm saying? So he give us a ride. I said, just take me around the ghetto parts, you know what I'm saying, the ghetto parts. So we riding around the different little ghetto parts, you know, looking for a trap. So we.
Now the Miami Boys would essentially be one of the first crews to make huge money from trapping in Atlanta, even before Big Meech and BMF would come and set shop. However, they're irrelevant to this story. But understanding the beginning of Atlanta's gnarly gang and drug violence would be crucial to understanding this story. Because amongst the influx of violence caused by the Miami Boys' influence, many of the city's projects would begin to be stomping grounds for dealers. Territory. Atlanta would now house some of the worst projects in the country, with crime rates soaring and unbearable living conditions spreading rapidly around the poverty-ridden streets of the city. Carver Homes was no exception. You see, by 1988, the Carver community would inevitably succumb to the violence perpetrated by the city's dealers that terrorized the poor communities. Carver Homes would also be territory used in the old Atlanta's war on drugs.
I've been told by the chairman that the authority was aware that poor workmanship did exist in some of the units at Carver Homes, but thought that in most cases these units had been repaired. However, I have asked the authority to check each and every apartment at Carver Homes, and am pleased that Chairman Glenn has volunteered to have an independent contractor and/or architect to review the work on the site.
But just like the majority of all the other projects in the city, The Carver community housing projects would also be targeted for demolition and redevelopment around the 1996 Centennial Olympics that aimed to destroy all public housings in Atlanta and reshape the Mecca into a safer and better place. And by the year 2000, the Carver community housing projects would completely be demolished by Atlanta's Housing Authority, a part of the city's plan of shifting from the traditional projects to mixed-income communities, creating new homes, retail, and amenities. And over the next couple of decades, what was formerly known as one of the worst and crime-ridden projects in the city, the Carver Community Housing Projects, or Carver Homes, would gradually begin seeing its redevelopment take shape in the form of its new residential mixed-income housings. They were now known as the Villages at Carver. You see, the Villages at Carver, formerly known as Carver Homes, arguably one of Atlanta's most notorious projects in Zone 3, would be redeveloped in hopes of attracting mixed-income families and getting rid of the crime, violence, and drug wars that had once plagued the community. And for a decade, it would actually work, within its initial purpose at least. See, when Carver Homes was officially demolished in the early 2000s, it would take nearly an entire decade for the Villages at Carver to complete its first set of new housings available to residents, with the full completion being final around the early 2020s. Sadly, the new residents of this renovated area who believed the new Carver Homes would be a great place to raise their families would soon begin seeing similar, if not sadder, headlines of the same violence as the community's predecessor. Because amongst the many efforts in changing Atlanta from the gritty notoriety it's gained, the city would never suspect the city to eventually evolve into full-fledged gangland, with multiple gang wars spilling out across the streets after the murder of infamous rapper Lil Marlowe. As I mentioned in my previous video, Lil Marlowe, or Rude, was the next big rapper coming out of QC, being Lil Baby's best friend. But he was also one of the top members of what would become the most hated clique at the time, PFK, or 3L. The city would never be the same again. The city's gang politics would inevitably change. Drill music was at its peak, with no older figures to genuinely lead the younger generation onto a different path they've chosen. ATL would have a young nigga epidemic, violence in Atlanta spiking, with officials claiming the beginning of the 2020s became some of the most deadly years and decades for the city. Atlanta wasn't a city about getting money anymore, or being player. It was about crashing out. Who was the most throwed? Who has the most rank? And in the city's new violent politics regarding tragedies, deaths, and gangs that youths fully don't understand, the new Atlanta was born. And it is within these very circumstances that a young Duke would have to spend his childhood growing up in.
Well, how would you say it was coming up in Atlanta for you?
You know, that shit, it was fun. That shit was like crazy. Seen a lot of crazy shit growing up out here.
So you from like the inner city, outside?
Yeah, I'm from Zone 3. Like Pittsburgh, Carver Homes, shit like that.
Okay, sure.
Now, not a lot is known about Luh Duke's early life, unless you know the nigga personally, but it is said that he was a normal kid with occasional troubles, but didn't really begin getting active until the age of 16, which would roughly be around the year 2023 and 2024. At the peak of the city's drill scene between the young generation, not to mention a tragedy that probably affected a young Duke early, the senseless 2022 murder of a beloved Villages at Carver resident, 15-year-old Terrence Denson, better known to friends and family as Rocc. Now, Rocc wasn't a gangbanger or even a troubled kid. He had his occasional problems expected of a youth growing up in these areas, but being related to and growing up in a family full of rolling 60s Crips, Rocc would become like a brother to many around the Zone 3 area, as he was all about his money. Being a beloved resident in the city's Zone 3, it would absolutely break the hearts of the community when on June 21st of 2022, Rocc would be chilling in the driver's seat of a car at an apartment complex on the 1900 block of Gardenwood Courts. Apparently, Rocc was also with his ex-girlfriend at the time when he would get into an argument with someone at the complex, who would proceed to draw their weapon and shoot Rocc multiple times. The suspect would be identified days later, who would turn out to be a 19-year-old member of the Lincoln Blood Gang, Ahmad Royal, who also goes by Maud. Now, Rocc's tragic death would be one of many instances that would have probably mentally affected Duke and made him desensitized to the senseless violence occurring around his environment. Having to grow up in this new Atlanta, Duke probably felt like he had no other choice but to jump off the porch to not only make ends meet, but to be accepted in these crime-ridden and gang-infested environments. And it is shortly after this time that Duke would begin getting active in the streets, going on a spree of striking, robberies, and shootings that would garner him a feared reputation in all under a year, granting him Atlanta's Rookie of the Year, becoming perhaps one of the realest 4L rappers in the city. So without further ado, let's go over the many instances that would make Luh Duke arguably Atlanta's most feared. Baby Kier. Real name Carrie Jamil Horde blew up amongst Atlanta's underground and drill scene for his erratic and throwed-off energy he brung to his persona in music and trillers. Among the buzz he created from his 2023 hit, Let's Play a Game, where he violently raps over distorted 808s about torturing and decapitating niggas. BK would go on shortly after to release another single, OD Crashing, which would become mega viral online, pushing him into mainstream conversation. Casual fans, or the average listener, were completely shocked to see what seemed like the prime example of a YN running around rapping the most demonic shit over a beat, with most lyrics sometimes dissing rivals going over their heads. However, if you were from Atlanta, then you knew exactly who BK and his crew were dissing, as well as all the situations mentioned in his songs. BK took what was the early Atlanta drill sound from rappers like L5, Lil Perk, and Anti the Menace, who are all ops to BK, and turned Crash Out music to a mere parody, because this overly throwed, psyched out Joker voice ass music and energy BK was bringing to his music from mimicking his ops would make him arguably become bigger than all of them. And it is within this very rivalry that Luh Duke would find himself tangled in between amongst Baby Kier's rise. You see, before today's beef, BK was originally a part of a clique called Fast Money, or Fast Money Homicide, with the initials of the gang being FMH, which is a clique of sex, money, murder bloods from Zone 3, Summerhill, also known as The Hill, eventually going on to click up with Slimes on Cleveland Avenue and YSL's Young Generation, who goes by Y5 or Young Slimes with the 5, and Y5 meant to represent their blood gang affiliation. And if you ask anyone in Fast Money, they'd probably tell you themselves that it was created by Mr. Fast Money himself, Lil Tim.
So what is One Life Fast Money? Talk about the brand, stamp the brand, let the people know and the world know what it means and what the world gonna take now.
Yeah, it's us. It's the family here. We the one who really popping in the city, as you can see. We the one who really doing this shit. One Life Family, that's family brand shit. We try to make this shit global. Go to the top with this shit.
Now, Fast Money's history is irrelevant to this video, but understanding who they are and how they would eventually get into a heated rivalry with YC, who I stated in my previous video as being the younger renegade, Generation 2 Little Marlo's PFK, or 3L gang, is crucial to understanding this story. Now, around this time in early 2022, YC was under the 4-3 or Forever Alliance, which was a music label and Gang of the Wicked West's most dangerous cliques. Under the 4-3 Alliance was cliques like YC, Lil Marlo's PFK, DFW, TG5, YNS, and 952, where rappers like Anti the Menace began blowing up with his hard-hitting anthems, pioneering the sound of what would become the early stage of ATL drill. And amongst 4-3's rise not only in Atlanta's music scene, but the streets, it became common to see members from different cliques repping other cliques too within the Forever Alliance. So besides YC rapper like the who would be 14 at the time, Lil Perk, who outsiders seen as a badass little kid screaming over anti-beats, toting blicks in his videos with grown men endorsing it. You could see a young L5 at the start of his career repping YC to the fullest. Now, L5 would hail from the DFW gang, which means down for whatever, a gang of Billy Badass Bloods, or 9 Trays, that formed in the Pittsburgh neighborhood and McDaniel Street, but would later go on to set up shop in hoods like Bankhead and Simpson Road on the Wicked West's Zone 1. Eventually getting tied in with Lil Big and his 952 crew, being the younger generation of Famgoon members. This is how L5, being from Bankhead, would become affiliated with DFW and the other 4-3 young niggas. Now it is unclear what led to the 4-3 alliance beefing with Fast Money, but it can all be attributed to the senseless violence and politics I mentioned before in this new Atlanta that would have made Luh Duke jump off the porch and get hands-on in the streets as well. Gang politics, school beefs, points to prove. It seemed like a new clique of young niggas started beefing every day. Now, one of the tragedies that would sadly begin retaliated violence and be the first blood shed between Fast Money and the 4-3 crew would happen on March 5th of 2022. Just amongst the rise of 4-3 in the music scene, apparently, 2 groups of teenagers were at a fair near Pryor and Bass Street before an argument would spill out between them. Amongst the 2 groups were DFW and TG5 members from 4-3 like L5, G-Baby or G5, and Turk, real name Joshua Adetungi, who we'll get into later. And the other group they would get into an argument with consisted of Fast Money members, notably Lil Tim. Sadly, during this argument, weapons would be pulled, leading to a shootout between the 2 crews. Amongst the shooters would be 19-year-old Marquez Harris, and allegedly L5, with Tim shooting back, sadly creepily foreshadowing the next incident between these crews. Turk would get caught between crossfire and tragically pass away on the scene. Now, this incident has been a common discussion and debate in Atlanta, with the juveniles arrested from this incident being L5 and Lil Tim, as the age is described in the news reports also matches up with their age. And since juvenile records aren't public, this has been a rumored discussion. But if we go by their own music as well as rumors in the streets, apparently this incident is what would have L5 diss Lil Tim in his song Shades On, where he calls out Tim for allegedly copying Please behind the walls before Lil Tim would get out after his brother's death. L5 would also be released afterwards and go on a legendary 2023 run before violating probation from this incident, lending him back behind bars. Now, following Turk's tragic passing from DFW, L5 and Tim would be locked up for this period as 4-3 was steadily making waves in the music scene with rappers like Anti, Rack Baby, who went by 9-5 to Lil Rack at the time, and no one other than Lil Perk, who was making the YC crew infamous and hated in the streets with his dissing. Now, amongst the 4-3 crew making waves, we begin seeing a notable Fast Money and henchman gang 5L member, Ola Cam, the younger brother of rapper Ola Runt. Now, Cam was a renegade 5L member since his brother's gang beefs with everyone. But Cam would also be one of the originators of the Fast Money gang and Lil Tim's right-hand man, as Tim is better off telling you himself.
I'm bro, he in a fight, I'm bro Lil Cam.
So tell the world who is Lil Cam and why it meant so much for you to dedicate your project.
Lil Cam, that's my little brother. He the one who, before I was even rapping and everything, that was my right-hand man, my bro. We on the phone all night, 2, 3 o'clock, and bro, he the one telling me about everything, like we just kicking shit.
What's one thing you want the world to know about your best friend?
Shit, he been popping shit on all y'all fuck niggas. He been doing this shit, man. He the one who been slapping. He the one who really started this shit for real, man. Y'all niggas know this shit.
Now, Cam was an innocent boxer to his family, but a Fast Money and renegade 5L stepper willing to crash out on anyone to his friends. And from the Turk incident involving Cam's best friend Tim, bloodshed would be inevitable, as both crews were wanting to get at one another bad.
But leave you alone, cause I'm cutler, bro. Nigga, fuck everything, nigga. I don't give no fuck about none of that. You will die, nigga. Fuck TG5 and fuck everything you is, boy. My mama, nigga, I'm on some 5L and Fat Money shit, and you, all that playing you doing, bro. Nigga, spend anywhere.
And around this time, multiple videos would actually surface online of Cam running into and getting caught lacking by 4-3 members. Outnumbered every time, with him making the wise decision to run away.
Look at that boy, look here, man. Look at that boy, man. Come on.
Look, Cal running. Look at that boy.
There's also to mention that Cam was the one doing the catching as well, because shortly after these videos would release, there would be a shocking video showing Cam pistol whipping DFW and former TG5 member Baby Tay on a busy and occupied street, which would eerily be the same exact location he'd go on to lose his life.
What is that with fellow Cal? What one is that? Don't hit with his ass, twin. Do it to him.
Recommend died 2 weeks later, a week later.
And violence between these crews would only escalate as for 3 rappers like Auntie and Lil Perk were becoming more infamous not only on the West, but the entire Atlanta. Perk hollering Free L5 in lots of his songs, including his hit Walk M Down, and then eventually following it up with a full diss song dedicated to Tim, Cam, and the entire Fast Money crew. I Be You at P5. Tensions were at an all-time high between Fast Money and 4-3. However, that would all seemingly change on the night of November 26th of 2022. A tragedy that would fundamentally change the young niggas and Atlanta drill as we know it. Now, it is unclear whether this situation was planned or a mere coincidence, because during that night, a large mob of 4-3 members, including the likes of Lil Perk, Lil Rodney, who we'll get into a bit, Babelop, Lil Tone, who appeared in a video to be getting checked by Lil Tim and his goons for claiming Fast Money K.
Money K, bro.
Oh, you straight. You got
Take this all that nothing boy see your face. You Fat Money K.
You got it, bro.
All right, say yeah.
He would indeed be Fast Money K. And then we have 12-year-old Zion Charles, better known as Baby Hot, who would eventually become the Tuka of ATL due to the city's hatred for 4-3. Apparently, they, along with other 4-3 members, were hanging out in Atlantic Station, an infamous residential plaza downtown, until they would eventually wander onto the 17th Street Bridge. That's when they spotted Cam riding an electric scooter down the same bridge. Someone would yell out, "There goes Cam," before 4-3 would draw their weapons and open fire instantly on sight. Sadly, 6 teens were struck in the crossfire, including Cam and Baby Hot, who was accidentally shot in the head by his own crew. Cam was 15, Baby Hot was 12. Now, the events that would soon transpire after this tragedy is shocking. However, I won't dive into that in this video. Nonetheless, we begin seeing headlines and news articles of 4-3 member Lil Rodney, who was the alleged gunman that actually shot Cam, and one of the wildest stories in the Atlanta drill scene. Lil Rodney would get done the worst way as former henchman 5L member Draco, who steps for Cam would dig a fucking hole through the wall to launch a violent attack on Rodney with a shank. Now, Rodney would later go on to deny these allegations over and over. But with this event, along with his name ringing behind the walls of dropping a member of the city's most hated gang, Lil Rodney would become a cultural icon in the ATL drill scene for the wrong reasons. Still dissing behind bars, self-proclaimed standing on business. However, this would lead to Luh Duke and Rodney eventually clicking up under the Sex Money Murder Prison Says Step On Shit or SOS, where they would later go on to release ATL drill hit Lockdown Flow. Anyways, behind this beef, Baby Kiar would be put on by Lil Tim, blowing up off his erratic trillers, over-exaggerating and parodying his ops like L5, who got out and went on a legendary 2023 run with his tape No More Free. L5, BK, and Tim would put the Fast Money crew on and eventually become some of the most infamous young niggas on the city's south, eventually getting locked in with steppers around the area like Duke. Apparently, Duke wasn't as feared as he is today, because rumors quickly spread that Baby Kier was treating Duke like Lil Bro and allowed one of his Fast Money goons to slime Duke out for his PlayStation 5. Duke wasn't feeling this and was tired of being treated like a goofy. So one night, Duke would ask BK, could he hold his gun, leading to one of the most iconic moments in this beef.
Nigga, bitch, you ain't got no gun. Man, get my shit.
You touch me on my mama, I'm pussy. Oh, now
Man,
I'm
get
a
my
pussy.
shit, dog. Oh, leave him alone. Bro, give my shit.
No, bro.
Bro, what you doing?
I got this, bro.
I'm your partner.
What
What the fuck?
I'm at
Nigga, no, I didn't. Bro, give my shit.
Now Duke was so petty from this situation that he featured that exact audio clip of him allegedly backdooring BK in an entire diss song dedicated to him and his Fast Money crew called Get Back, which would do nothing but boost his fear and credibility. However, the situation would rather take a darker turn as we find out that Duke might have indeed allegedly shot BK and his homeboy at the time, Day One Willie. As Baby Kia confirms he's been shot, and Duke later going on to drop a diss song, Who Got Popped, where the first lyrics are, eerily BK and Willie had both been shot, before going on to the solar cam.
They play a game who got blocked. Willie, he got blocked. BK, he got blocked. Millie, he got chased. Well, the camera, he got dropped. They did Marlo at the Worldway Highway, CCG the car.
Did you get shot recently? Because I seen you in one of the music videos and your shoulder was all bandaged up and shit. What was that about?
That?
You did? How many times?
But whatever the case was, Duke would officially choose his side in this ongoing rivalry, becoming close with the K4K side, or Lil Rodney's side in the 4-3 alliance, as eventually, as of today, the 4-3 crew would have a massive fallout. However, ever since Duke's beef with Fast Money began, it seemed like his short career as Atlanta's bogeyman would only escalate and eventually come to an end. As the villagers at Carver was now a target for rival gangs, Duke eventually going on a reign of terror in the streets that would eventually have him taken under the wing of 4L's proclaimed top stepper, who allegedly murdered Lil Marlo, Baby Drill, and of course taking the GSP on rides that would eventually reveal him of being on a run for murder. On June 19th of 2022, just 5 months before Baby Hot and Ola Cam was tragically killed, Atlanta police responded to reports of a person shot at the Villagers at Carver complex on Maury Avenue around 12:25 p.m. When police arrived, they found 2 teenagers suffering from gunshot wounds. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. Police have identified them as 18-year-old Neerick Olds and 17-year-old Jamarcase McCrary, better known to friends and family as Fatt and Rexkless, who we would come to find out both repped a one-gang set of the 4L Alliance, made notorious by rappers like 21 Savage, Young Nudie, and Baby Drill. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, the 4L Alliance is a gang of bloods that originally formed on and ran the east side, with many subsets and cliques formed under them. However, we would learn that the villagers at Carver, infamously known as Carver Homes, would become a blood-dominated hood, with 4L making these new Carver Homes their territory. This new generation 4L clique formed would go by Cleanup Crew. And if you asked anyone close to Fatt and Rexkless, they'd probably tell you themselves that they both were big cleanup.
Cleanup Crew. That's the clique, that's rap shit, that's just the bro.
Hell no, that shit family.
Family, okay, yeah. So that shit.
Like, so we get like the shit we started with our bro, like, and then just like, this shit, they ain't here no more. So this shit, they living through us.
They ain't here no more. You had some people in the crew who passed away?
Yeah. I lost 2 of my brothers on one day. And then I lost another brother a couple days after that. Yeah.
As you can also see in throwback videos, Duke chilling with Rexkless, dissing arguably Atlanta's most hated young nigga that got shot by YC's Lil Drabo, Lil Deco, even though they used to be clicked together under 4-3 before the fallout. Now the killer behind Fatt and Rexkless would turn out to be 18-year Darshay Barnes Jr. After cameras caught his ass in 4K running away from the crime scene, police soon issuing a warrant for his arrest. Now the deaths of Fatt and Rexkless would be a tragedy that would not only affect Duke mentally, but it is from this very incident where we begin seeing deadly headlines in this new Carver Homes. The villagers at Carver unfortunately regressing to the same violence as once before. But instead of being territory fought over for drugs and turf, it would become a haven of gang banging and death. Because it is unclear what really caused this next situation to, but a year later after their senseless deaths on June 19th of 2023. A vigil would be thrown in remembrance of Fatt and Rexkless by their community, before things would suddenly escalate to deadly gunfire. As officers responded to the 200 block of Maury Avenue after reports of a shooting around 6:30 p.m., residents of the villages of Carver would come to complete shock to find out 2 other teens was shot again during a vigil of 2 previous teens killed, with one of the teens shot in the 2023 incident unfortunately passing away, who would turn out to be 18-year-old Quentin Burgess, also known as Red. Now the shooters would quickly be identified again, as they would also be caught in 4K, with a PD and investigators going on to release it to help with their arrests, and soon apprehending the shooting suspects whose names weren't released to the public. However, the streets knew. As soon we begin seeing a prominent member of the Demon Avenue clique, blazers on the city's south, whose younger generation goes by Smack 5 Gang, M5, or Smack 5 Gang M5, who would eventually grant bail for this situation and gain a similar feared notoriety as Duke in the coming years. You see, Red was a feared shooter of the Goodfellas Mob or GF Mob gang, who I mentioned in my previous video as being the original Jailborn Street gang repped by Lil Malo's PFK before they fell out. Red, who would eventually go on to click up with a crew of young niggas from Stone Mountain Central Drive called High Crew on the east side. Now things would rather take a darker turn as you go down the rabbit hole, discovering that Red might have died attempting to slide on anyone affiliated with Duke's crew, because a couple hours before he was tragically killed, Red would post a disturbing image on his story reading simply, "Hell," or jail, a war cry, a vow that would soon be shouted out by other members of his crew before sliding. Like the Tay-K crew rapper Lil Slide would post something disturbingly similar after he posted himself getting spine torn by a 310 gang rapper and adolescent assassin, Doo-Wop. Now, as I stated previously, Smack 5 Gang's M5 would go on to beat the body of Red as he would post his paperwork and celebrating shortly after he got out. And what would come next would be shocking, as M5 would go on to pursue music with this new reputation, where he disses and mentions the murder of Red subliminally multiple times, like in his infamous song Do or Die, where he mentions that there's a stain in Carver Homes, before going on to allegedly describe how Red got killed, saying he got hit in the shoulder, then cried, or in his track to Glock's One Demon. The title itself directly a diss to Red, who infamously went by to Glock's, which would eerily be what he was sliding with, and ultimately ended up dying with, as seen in a picture captured at the scene that is too graphic to show on YouTube, where M5 declares that he's the real 2 Glocks 1 Demon and that Red was the fake one. Now all of this just shows you the tragedy of what Duke's hood, the villages at Carver, would become, and how him and his gang's actions in the streets would make the area one of the deadliest blocks in the city's Zone 3. From whether it's robbing Lil Duke, Atlanta's most hated, running off on the TG Hellraiser, L5 himself, or even allegedly robbing YouTuber Ungato Matthew, it's no doubt that Duke has garnered a notorious reputation amongst the young niggas in Atlanta.
What's one of the biggest misconceptions you feel like people have about Luh Duke, if they got one? Cause Luh Duke popping, so like, what's one misconception you think that folk may have about Luh Duke?
I feel like everybody feel like I want to rob them. Real shit. Like, I feel like you rob them. Like, I don't want to rob everybody, man.
Duke's troubled history of robbing some of the most poppin' names in the city would only be the groundwork for the amount of trouble he would begin getting into in the coming years. Because on November 2nd of 2024, officers responded to the area of Ted Turner Drive and John Portman Boulevard, where they received reports of several vehicles being broke into. And during the investigation, APD got surveillance video that showed the suspects in a 2016 Chevy Silverado breaking into multiple cars before driving away. Police shared a be on the lookout notice with other officers in the area, and that's when things would go wrong for Duke here. Police were able to quickly locate the vehicle via aviation unit, where they spotted it driving recklessly away from the scene. What comes next would be probably one of Duke's most iconic moments, as he then decides to bail out the vehicle, eventually stumbling upon train tracks.
Let me see your fucking hands! Get on the ground! Get the fuck on the ground! Get the fuck on the ground! Put your fucking hands. I want you to fucking move. I ain't going nowhere. I still got it. Now you want to get in the custody? Get in the custody right now, we'll find you. Great thing. Now you want to have seven drivers, buddy. Can you take the video? Relax, bro, I got you. I'm gonna be rocks, bro. I'm about to get you up. Relax. I can't breathe because you're running, man. Hey, radio, go ahead and start the purple 4. He's gonna need some oxygen. You alright? Relax. You got any weapons on you?
Just give me is that location where he's detained at.
What, relocate? How did you put the AC on for you, I'll be down? Yeah. But hold on, before you do that, let me double lock the handcuffs because I will close on your wrist, alright?
You can't take them out while I'm here?
Now Duke would soon be released from jail from this incident, ultimately ending up being caught with 7 charges, including 2 felonies. But after the video was released, Duke was at the height of his notoriety, and this would only make him more valid in the eyes of the criminals around him, as he would later go live on Instagram explaining the entire situation to his fans and friends.
Hitting up the state, niggas say what they want to, man. I'm in a dually, I just sit in the car, gang. What the hell? Like 4 guns. Bro just gave up, yeah, hell yeah. I was running for like 4 miles, what the hell? They don't show all that on there. They keep skipping the game. I had hopped on the moving train, all that.
However, Duke's careless acts would fortunately come to a halt, as not even 4 months after his arrest, he would encounter the police again, but this time with serious consequences, as the law were now onto him. Because on February 1st of 2025, the APD would put out a notice where during a traffic stop on Terra Boulevard, Duke would then take the police on an intense high-speed chase, where it was revealed that Duke was responsible for the murder of 27-year-old Zachary Rainwater, who was tragically found dead inside a blue Ford Fiesta in Zone 3's Pittsburgh area after being shot several times. That occurred on September 15 of 2024.
Police say led a dangerous high-speed chase last night. Vincent Steele, currently wanted out of the city of Atlanta for murder. You're taking a look at him on your screen right there. We're told Georgia State Patrol first tried to stop Steele in Atlanta, but he fled to Clayton County. Sheriff LaVon Allen says his team caught up with him on Terra Boulevard, but Steele sped off again, hitting over 100 miles per hour before crashing into another driver in Fayette County. Investigators say he is armed and dangerous. If you see him, do not approach. Call 911 right away.
And with Duke's new reputation of not just being a striker and robber, but even a feared killer, we begin to see more rumors. Allegations with Duke's name popping up in other murders. However, there's no evidence for any of that and are just speculation. Nonetheless, 4 months later, publicly on the run from murder and escaping GSP, which is no easy feat, Duke would go on to release a music video for his song Voodoo, where he goes on to mention that he's done striking or breaking into cars as he's on to scamming, following on to taunt the Atlanta police, actively looking for him, reenacting the chase where he was caught after breaking into cars, and after that, you'd barely see him on any social media platforms, as he was actively avoiding law until this very day. Now all of this would culminate Duke into becoming known as Atlanta's very own Tay-K, an Arlington, Texas-based rapper who blew up with a similar case to Duke, committing murder while going on the run and leaving videos. Hints for the police, merely taunting them. But fortunately for Duke, he's yet to be caught for his crimes, as Lord only knows the punishment that waits for him if he ever does face justice. So as of 2026, Luh Duke might actually be Atlanta's most feared. Now if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as it helps out the channel a lot so I can provide more content for you guys. Also, I want to notably shout out the ATL Drill Discord and the Atlantology subreddit, as they are major contributors to these videos. Links are in the description. As always, hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Be safe out there.